The first scene in the movie is a portrayal of endless desolation, a no-man wasteland. Breaking through the silent void, a male voice begins to speak about the rising plants, soaring into the 60s, changing the land from a desert to an industrial region at its peak. A pioneer of liberalized commerce. But during the Civil War, under the shadows of Black September, worlds changed, history murmured, and the acoustics of an anciently pulsating dream faded away, lost in time. We catch a glimpse of Ida, cloudy-eyed with reminiscences of her lost love, as the man's voice spins his story. He talks of a factory and an abandoned military base. Their echoes vanished in the archive of time and space. Now they are calling it the Island of the Deceased, a ghost town where shadows of histories are paused in motion. And despite those thoughts, he knows Ida would find peace of mind there. As the story proceeds, it is accompanied by an extremely slight, imperceptible smile from Ida, an acknowledgement of the allure of forgotten places, where the past whispers softly to those who listen. In the dim light of the bathroom, Ida holds the emaciated body of Ismail. Her fingers tremble as they map the curves of his pallid face. The water trickles over his lifeless body, the drops, some kind of silent crying, mingling with her whispered confessions. She gazes at him hard, as if she is trying to etch every line and shadow into her memory, fearing one day his image would blur in her mind. In the next shot, Ida wakes up from a deep sleep on the plane when she arrives at her destination, in the middle of the night. Her face, a picture of exhaustion and disorientation, speaks for the traveler lost in her thoughts. The next act whisks us off to the heart of the sea, where Ida's journey unwraps on a pitching boat. The murmurs of the water draw her into silent sorrow, a communion with the unknown. She steps onto firm ground, her burdens weigh heavy on each footfall, resonating in the stillness. She heads towards the only hotel in this desolate landscape. What is the quest of Ida? Stay with us to unravel the mystery. At the reception, doubts about the period of her stay flood her mind, yet she signs into the register, thereby booking a room. But obligation doles her as she promptly proceeds to ask about the location of the police station, thus giving an indication of the mysterious journey that awaits her. Only a little while later, Ida gets into a taxi and drives across this depressing landscape, the endless, bleak sky, on her way to the police station. The scene cuts to Ida sitting in front of the police officer. Her voice is shaking as she inquires about her boyfriend's passing. A storm within her, from anxiety to frustration to fear, begins to well up. He states that they usually allow family members and officials to check the scene and the body, but he does offer her if she wishes to, an offer met by vehement rejection from Ida, as she continues weeping. She does not want the harsh reality to ruin the cherished, beautiful image of him that she clings to in her heart. The officer, feeling her unease, hands her Ismail's personal things that were left over from the accident. The emotional turmoil seems to daze Ida as she sorts through these things with trembling hands. Suddenly, a call on the phone interrupts them, forcing the officer to leave her alone. Ida's eyes fall on the picture of a woman resting on the table, the one who was accompanying Ismail during the accident. She draws the paper closer, her eyes scanning with desperate curiosity through the details. The picture represents a mute witness, speaking its secrets not yet revealed. The sorrowful determination within Ida urges her to pursue the story, a need to understand the riddle that just shattered her world. After he hangs up, the officer turns to Ida. His eyes show a mix of sorrow and concern. He gently asks her if she needs any further information or details. Ida, with thoughts running through her mind, takes a few seconds to gather herself before inquiring about the remains of Ismail. The officer's countenance is heavy with sadness as he struggles to find the right words. He finally confesses that the scene was beyond description. Ismail's body was badly damaged, his face and neck were crushed, and the car was in a twisted heap. With tearful eyes, he reveals that Ismail had numerous broken bones, his chest and ribs completely shattered. He speaks of the lady driver who tried desperately to brake and steer clear of the valley, but despite her best efforts, Ismail took most of the force of the accident. Shortly after, Ida leaves overwhelmed by the enormity of the accident, unable to comprehend how her life drastically turned upside down in such a short period of time. She stands, indecisive about what to do next, walking like a ghost along an unknown road. In the subsequent scene, we depict Ida sitting in a cafe by the Red Sea, all alone. The gentle waves and the faraway horizon could not soothe her pain, prompting her to light a cigarette to pacify the tornado of thoughts swirling inside her head. She feels the urge to confront the reality regarding Ismail's passing and what is left behind in his life. Gathering her courage, she digs her hands inside the bag, her fingers shaking. She throws all her fears about the looming emotional shocks away. She fetches his wallet, his phone, and another wallet that seems unfamiliar, a secret wallet belonging to Ismail. As she goes through the papers and cards in his wallet, she delves deeper into his past conversations with his secret girlfriend, scrolling through shared pictures and locations where they had planned to meet. Every discovery is a dagger to her heart, the realization of an agonizing truth. Ismail had been unfaithful. Limned with every minute detail, Ida's gaze lands on a necklace. She draws it out, her fingers tracing the letters of Ismail's name etched on it. She clasps it tight between her fingers, trying to feel his presence and some connection to the man she thought she knew. She locks up the necklace around her neck, symbolizing the love and betrayal that she carries within her. She sits there, with a mix of sadness and regret falling upon her as she begins to fathom the ugly reality she has just uncovered. Again, she reaches for her cigarette, trying to turn a blind eye to her mind, which keeps playing tricks on her. The smoke rings surround her, a wreath of protection that provides insulation from the world, which undoubtedly goes haywire within her. In the scene thereafter, we embark on a tour of an abandoned house, where everything appears frozen in time, as if it had been untouched and left exactly as it was. It is Ismail's house, and each nook highlights every part of his life. Faded photographs on walls, worn-out furniture, the lingering fragrance of his presence, everything speaks of dreams and aspirations. He always wanted to go back to his town and live there. Eventually, everyone goes back to their own roots, their own village, and their own people. In this succeeding scene, we catch a glimpse of a young Ismail laboring at a construction site. Together with his friends, every day, they strive to boost their earnings and elevate their standard of living. The sweat on their brows and calluses on their hands show their strong will to do so. Having secured enough money, we see Ismail traveling from his town on a boat into the unknown, leaving behind his little village. Rocking to the tides and the waves, the boat symbolizes his unsure journey. With the expression of a person who doesn't know what lies ahead, he seems lost but determined to make his life better. Ida walks through the deserted alleys towards the hotel, carrying Ismail's effects in her hand, undecided about what to do or where to go. The weight of his effects seems too heavy to bear, both physically and, more so, emotionally. Subsequently, we depict her in a red bikini, walking at the edge of the swimming pool, deep in thought, in an attempt to digest all that has happened so far. The water glimmers in the sun, contrasting her inner turmoil. Suddenly, a hotel worker approaches with her order and opens an umbrella to protect her from the sun. Ida wraps the towel around her neck and walks over to the table, craving a cold drink in the oppressive heat. The ice clinks into her glass, relieving her for a moment. As she takes a sip of her drink, the worker reaches her, revealing that he had dreamt about her the previous night. She confesses to him, with a small grin on her face, that she too had dreamt about him. A smile crawls up his face. Shortly after, Ida asks about his name, which turns out to be Musa. Musa mentions that he knew her husband, Ismail, but Ida shrugs that off, informing him that they were not married. The revelation hangs there, a reminder of a complex past and an uncertain path ahead of her. While Ida is immersed in tasting the delicacies, Musa tells her that Ismail himself used to visit the hotel, and he was used to ordering the same delicacies that she is having. Sure enough, a knowing smile spreads across the lips of Ida as she senses the deep connection that once bonded them. Curiously, she asks Musa how long he has been working here, to which he replies that he started working in the hotel more than 2 years ago, and he is originally from Sinai, Egypt. When she inquires how often he goes back home, his face falls as he expresses a burning desire to return, delayed by the long wait for his papers, not to mention that the chaos in his homeland bars any possibility of crossing borders. Still, he dutifully saves money, hoping for the day when he can again put his arms around his family. With a smile, Ida bids him farewell as he leaves her. An inscrutable expression, extreme sadness, but quiet delight. She mourns her late boyfriend while taking pleasure in retracing his steps, learning about his past, and feeling his presence around her. The scene suddenly changes to the hotel, a somber building set between the mountains, emanating cold and isolation. The silence is suddenly broken by a voice, advising Ida to take the next flight back home. The mountains will not let her go. It's a land, he says, for the deceased alone. Soon we find Ida in a deep slumber on a lounge chair beside the pool, within the premises of the hotel, when suddenly Adan awakens her. It was all her mind's own fabrication, the jarring discord of resolved and conflicting feelings waging war within her as she found herself adrift on a stormy sea of indecision. Later that evening, drink in hand, Ida walks into the bar and settles at a table facing the stage, where she envisions Ismail's smile as he prepares to sing. Overwhelmed with feelings of longing and anger, she wants to hold him close, desiring to rebuke him for leaving her. Lighting a cigarette, Ida depicts Ismail playing the piano and singing their cherished song. Her eyes well up with tears, as memories of times that they had shared flood her mind. She listens intently, with a faint smile, trapped in the present but tied to the past, with a hazy future. The film leaves us in thought. Love and sacrifice against unfaithfulness and longing, anger and loneliness underscoring the battle of the character. As she chases shadows from her past and wrestles with her present, the future remains an open question. This open-ended conclusion speaks to the uncertainty of life itself, with all of us looking towards a million different possibilities ahead.